The Great Debate Series. Best teams of the last 30 years.
You know it. So Monday we did Major League Baseball. Yesterday was college football. Today we have landed on the NFL. Top 5 greatest NFL teams of the last 30 years. Perloff, we kick it off, and here's where the controversy lies. It's the 1995 Dallas Cowboys.
Blitz. O'Donnell over the middle. Intercepted wide open is Larry Brown. No one near him, and Brown takes it inside the 20 to the 18. O'Donnell intercepted, and Larry Brown has a shot at a touchdown. Brown knocked out of bounds by John L. Williams. And Brown again, not even near the play. The ball thrown right to him.
I hope Neil O'Donnell was not listening to that highlight. Of course, the Cowboys, now this was the Barry Switzer-led Cowboys. They beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl. They beat Green Bay in the conference championship. They beat Philadelphia, your Eagles, Perloff, in the divisional round.
I mean, it was close. 30-11 or something. I mean, we scored in double digits.
All right, enough about you. They were third in points scored that year, averaging 27 a game. They were third in points allowed, 18 per game. Troy Aikman, a better year than 93, guys. 16 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. We know Troy's numbers were never, like, amazing.
He threw 16 touchdowns compared to 15 in 93. So, by the way, I'm for the 93 team, just in case you haven't figured that out.
Emmitt Smith, better numbers than 93. Over 1,700 yards rushing, 25 touchdowns. First team All-Pro for him that year. Michael Irvin, over 1,600 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns. That's more than the 93 year. Yeah, Jay Novacek made the Pro Bowl. Deion Sanders is on this team. Darren Woodson is a first team All-Pro. Charles Haley, 10.5 sacks. 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen all made the Pro Bowl. I mean, this team, to me, was better than 93, which was an excellent team.
Well, by some of your metrics, the 93 team was better. They had the second overall defense, second overall offense, which is crazy. But here's the reason 93, I think, was a stronger team because Jimmy Johnson was on the sideline instead of Barry Switzer. That's my number one reason. Also, I think the egos that tore apart the Cowboys, this is a little bit of, I admit, I'm assuming some things here. The team was already kind of crumbling at that point. The dynasty was crumbling. It was about to go completely kaput. The Eagles must have played a part in that 95 team. I actually remember that playoff game. And I thought, wow, this is not the same Cowboys from the first part of the decade. They are vulnerable, and no one even thought that team was that great. And they did win the Super Bowl. So I think the 93 team, which had the same record, they had to be better just based on the fact that the egos that corrupted the soul of the Cowboys had not taken hold yet.
Let's move on. Number 4 on the list, top 5 greatest NFL teams of the last 30 years, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks.
The ball is hit as it comes out and it's picked off by the Seahawks. Far sideline, Malcolm Smith, 50, 45, he's going to go. 30, nobody's going to touch him. Cuts back 20, 10, the Legion of Boom, the Seahawks defense. They do it again. Holy catfish. Touchdown, Seahawks. And the Seahawks go up 21-0 on the second interception of the game on Peyton Manning.
And that was a horrible day for Peyton Manning. The Seattle Seahawks absolutely destroyed them in the Super Bowl. And that was the year where Peyton Manning threw 55 touchdowns and won an MVP. They beat New Orleans in the divisional round. They beat San Francisco in the conference championship. And then, of course, they beat the Broncos, Manning's Broncos, in the Super Bowl. They had the number 1 defense that year, of course, the Legion of Boom, holding opponents to 14 points. They had the number 8 offense, a top 10 offense, which I think people forget. Marshawn Lynch over 1,200 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns. You had Doug Baldwin, obviously Russell Wilson, his second year in the league. Richard Sherman, just amazing. First team All-Pro. Earl Thomas, first-team All-Pro. Camp Chancellor, Pro Bowler. Bobby Wagner was only in his second year. Brandon Browner, Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett. Malcolm Smith, obviously, was the Super Bowl MVP. Pete Carroll as their coach. I mean, it was stacked.
Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator. Unbelievable. He did the game plan against the Broncos. Here's the thing. If you listen to Richard Sherman, they had a terrible quarterback. So,
right.
Because he hated the quarterback so much.
Yeah, we're taking Richard's comments out of this.
Richard would say, yeah, of course we're the best team. Oh, no, our offense stunk.
Well, the Super Bowl, though, in emphatic fashion. Okay, number 3 on the list, the 1999 St. Louis Rams.
Probably the final play of the game. In regulation. It is caught by Dyson. Can he get in? No, he cannot. Mike Jones made the tackle. And the
Dick Vermeil as the coach, Mike Martz as the offensive coordinator, the greatest show on turf, the number one offense that year. A memorable Super Bowl, too, with that Al Michaels call. The fourth best defense in terms of points allowed, only allowing 15 per game. They beat Minnesota the divisional round. They beat Tampa in the conference championship game. Then, of course, you just heard it, the Titans in the Super Bowl. Warner, Hall of Fame year for him. He was only 28 years old when this happened. Over 4,300 yards, passing, 41 touchdowns. Marshall Faulk, Hall of Famer, Kurt Warner Hall of Famer, of course. Marshall Faulk over 1,300 yards, rushing, 7 touchdowns. Actually, 12 touchdowns, 7 rushing, 5 receiving. First-team All-Pro. Isaac Bruce over 1,100 yards receiving. Torrey Holt. Don't forget Orlando Pace, Hall of Famer on the offensive line. Defense, you had Kevin Carter at 17 sacks that year. London Fletcher was on that team. Todd Lights had 6 interceptions on that team.
By the way, what do you mean Kurt Warner was only 28? He's the oldest rookie to ever have any success in the history of the NFL.
But when I think of Kurt Warner, he's always like 35 to me. I don't know why.
This was his first year in the NFL. So it is. You're right.
He was bagging groceries.
I totally know what you mean, but it does make sense. But when you think about it, it's kind of odd to have a 28-year-old rookie, but I totally hear what you're saying.
Okay, greatest show on turf. That is number 3. Number 2 on the list, the 1994 San Francisco 49ers.
From the 44, they fake it to Floyd. Young to the air, Young to Jerry Rice. Touchdown, San Francisco. Well, that's quite a statement their defense made. The lightning bolts were just hit by one.
There you go. I mean, you got Young to Rice. You had Montana to Rice, then Young to Rice. It worked every which way. Steve Young, 4,000 yards that year, 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Jerry Rice was 32 that season, was a first-team All-Pro, 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. Deion Sanders was a first-team All-Pro on that team. They were 6th in points allowed. That defense was very good. They were obviously first in terms of offense. They beat Chicago in the divisional round. They beat Dallas in an all-time game in the conference championship. The San Diego Chargers were the victims in the Super Bowl.
That was the era when the Super Bowl was always like 57-14. I love those Super Bowls. What was the score of that Super Bowl? That was the easiest one Super Bowl I've ever seen in my life. They basically could have their second team in by the third quarter. Poor Stan Humphries.
Yeah, 13-3 on the season, George Seifert as the head coach. And without further ado, the number 1 team of the last 30 years in terms of the NFL, 2007 New England Patriots.
Brady fires it to the right, down the right sideline, and caught at the 2015 10-5 touchdown Patriots. Tom Brady to Randy Moss, and they each have set NFL records on the go-ahead touchdown. 65-yard bomb, Brady to Moss.
Of course, that wasn't the whole story. It was a record-setting year for the New England Patriots, going 16-0. But when they got to the Super Bowl, well, they couldn't finish the job.
Here is Manning throwing for the end zone. Touchdown, Burris! Plexico Burris was wide open. The left side of the end zone. Only his second catch of the game. And the Giants are back on top with only 35 seconds remaining.
Marv Albert on the call. And obviously, you had the helmet catch. The David Tyree helmet catch was before that. I mean, they lost the Super Bowl, Perloff.
I'm aware.
One of the all-time disappointments after going 16-0 in the regular season. They were number 1 in offense that year. They were 4th in defense. Brady, phenomenal. 4,800 yards passing, 50 touchdowns. It set a record at the time that Peyton Manning later broke. Randy Moss, 1,500 yards receiving, 23 receiving touchdowns. Wes Welker, Matt Light, Logan Mankins, Vince Wilfork, Junior Seau, Mike Vrabel, Asante Samuel, Rodney Harrison, Teddy Bruschi, Richard Seymour, Brandon Merriweather. It went on and on and on. This was the team. It just made the Giants' upset all that more shocking. And it was just the matchup that day and some magic for the Giants. It doesn't take away from the Patriots in that 07 season being the best team of the last 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, it was a magical team. It's obviously, I was in that Spygate game at the beginning of the season, and you could just tell, even then, you could tell the team was good. I think that just propelled them to the next heights. You know why? I think I have one reason why that's the number one Patriots team, even though they lost.
Go ahead.
Randy Moss.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, it's like you added a secret weapon to the dynasty, and I know they didn't win.
They got him for nothing, too. I mean, Moss was like, in the doldrum, like kind of down in the dumps, and they got him from where? The Raiders? I mean, nuts.
Yeah, I mean, the 04 Patriots were obviously easily could have been on this list as well, but you're basically taking that team and adding the second best receiver in the history of the game, who was at the height of his powers, came back to the height of his powers. So, yeah, I know it sounds really weird to have a team that did not win the Super Bowl, number one. But I if you don't agree, call us, because I think that is the obvious choice.
I don't know who else you would put above that team. They just couldn't finish the deal. Again, we're doing the last 30 years here, so no 1972 Dolphins. Like, we're not doing the 85 Bears today. We're doing the last 30 years. Yeah. So you're going to put another Cowboys team? Listen, you might be able to put a different Patriots team. Maybe on
three Patriots. I mean, the 04 Patriots were 14-2 and just stormed everybody. They were really
incredible.
Good. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think the 07 team would have beaten that team. You know what? One thing I was looking at this. The salary cap started in 1994 in the NFL, so that's why you had the Steelers and the Cowboys and the 85 Bears. Like, you can't do that now. You can't have a 5-year dynasty. So that's why the Patriots are so incredible. And this to me is the height of their dynasty, even without them winning.
We did not put the Kansas City Chiefs on this list. We did not put the 98 Denver Broncos on this list, which I think is this, Mike Samter. I can feel you wanting to say something on the microphone.
I've got two major bones to pick here.
Hit us.
Okay, go ahead.
Two. I don't have an issue with the Patriots being on this list, but to be the best team of the number one team without winning the Super Bowl, I have an issue. Maybe make him third or fourth, but when you fail in that one game that matters, you can't be the greatest team if you failed when it mattered most. I would rather them go 15-1 and win the Super Bowl than go 16-0 and lose the Super Bowl. It's not even a question. 14-2, 13-3, they would have been better. So I don't like them being number one on this list.
So who would you put number one then?
I would probably put the 94 49ers or the 99 Rams as the best team. I would also, in all honesty, I would put one of these recent Chiefs teams. Listen. Maybe number one, number two. I mean, the Chiefs are loaded everywhere.
Okay, so here's the thing about the 2019 Chiefs, which would be the team you'd put on, right? I mean, last year's Chiefs, great story. They're starting multiple rookies in the Super Bowl. I don't think anyone believed last year was like the all-time great team.
No.
You need a Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce team.
Right.
So that's the 2019 team that beat the San Francisco 49ers.
I mean, they're the best team all year, and they just rolled through, and they beat everybody. And, like, I look at, for example, the 2013 Seahawks. They were huge underdogs going into that Super Bowl. So, yeah, they were like...
Huge underdogs? What was the spread?
They were underdogs for sure.
Well, that's because Manning had an all-time year.
Right.
Remember, the first snap of the game goes over his head. It's a safety, and Seahawks never look back.
Never look back. But going into that game, I don't think anyone considered those Seahawks an all-time great team. They had an all-time great game against an all-time great team, but they were a very good team. I don't think they belong on this list. I think that the Chiefs should supplant them, and I think the 2007 Patriots should be a little bit lower just because they couldn't do it when it counted.
See, I think that that Seahawks defense, though, has become like an iconic defense. These guys were all so young when they were doing that. We always talk about the Legion of Boom as like younger than you think they are. Richard Sherman right now is like 32. Like, it's wild. But I think they were such an iconic defense, and that was such a big, emphatic win over what was a very good Denver Broncos team.
Yeah, so Denver was favored by 2. It was a close game.
It wasn't a close game.
I mean, it was a close spread.
Yeah.
But I think that had more to do with Denver probably being overrated. Anyway, Seattle is 4th on the list, though. They're not first. And I think that's a reason, honestly, I think we talked about should they go higher. But I think the reason we put them 4th is because their offense wasn't like these other offenses.
Right.
But their defense was like a throwback to the doomsday. You don't have defenses with nicknames anymore, Mike. There's just none. That's it. That's the last one we'll ever see.
I mean, you're right. I mean, we'll have to find a new name for the Jets defense soon. I mean, we had the sack exchange a few years back, and I think this new the sauce eaters. I don't know what they're going to be.
Better workshop
hot sauce.
That. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. Okay, so there you go. The 95 Cowboys, number 5. The 2013 Seattle Seahawks, number 4. The 99 Rams, the greatest show on turf, is 3. 94 San Francisco 49ers is 2. And the 2007 Patriots upset by the New York Giants in the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter to Perloff and I. They still top the list.
It's so funny. I think we're learning something here. If there is a nickname for your team, you're moving way up the rankings here. If we had any access to the Steel Curtain or the Doomsday or the Killer Bees, greatest show on turf. I mean, but I think it was the greatest show on turf. It was so revolutionary. There's a bit of a narrative aspect, too. They made a movie about Kurt Warner's life. It's an incredible story, and the team just killed everybody. Yes, they totally slowed down in the playoffs. Oddly, their offense did nothing in the playoffs.
Yeah, but style points to me doesn't matter when it comes to the NFL. Like, you talk about maybe college football, does style points matter? Not in professional football.
But if you're doing a greatest, you don't count a blowout in the Super Bowl as important to rank these teams?
I think that you win, you win. You win, to me.
I don't know.
They're all professional athletes. I mean, it's different.
But here's the thing.
Had they won that game, had the 2013 Seahawks won that game on a last-second field goal or close
Still
game,
the same.
I don't think we would have looked at them the same way. The fact that they destroyed the Broncos, who had the best offense we'd ever seen, or one of the best offenses we've ever seen, I thought that was what
That
really
was
stamped
notable,
it.
but let's also, listen, we can't look at this all in a vacuum. Seahawks should have won a second one. So it's not like this was a fluky team where it was like, oh, this one-and-done thing. They should be two-time champs.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots should have won 9 Super Bowls, but
not that one. The Patriots should have lost that one.
You can't say it's a result-based thing because we're doing the top 5 teams of the last 30 years. We're 30 Super Bowl winners, so we have to go on style points. Otherwise, it's a 30-way tie for number one.
No, it's 29 Super Bowl winners. Our number one did win the Super Bowl.
I don't think we can rule style. I understand what you're saying. A win is a win. But I think that was the year they beat Tampa Bay 11-6 in the NFC title game, which is such a weird result because it was such an amazing offense. But, hey, give him points. Resiliency counts, Maggie. Grit. We're all about grit.
We always say that around here on the Maggie and Perloff show.
We say it all the time.
We do.